Support comes from Rancho La Puerta, a wellness resort 45 minutes outside San Diego. Summer packages include hiking, live music, mindfulness, and culinary experiences featuring fresh fruits and veggies. More information at rancholapuerta.com. Support comes from the Gates Foundation Discovery Center, featuring new interactive exhibitions spotlighting innovations with global impact. Open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with guided tours at 2 p.m. All are welcome. More at discovergates.org.
The Trump administration has gone back and forth on whether to target farm workers in its immigration crackdown.
Last week, immigration officials were told to give farms a break. This week, officials say the raids are back on. In the meantime, the fear and confusion are creating a crisis for one iconic Pacific Northwest industry.
Cherry bomb!
It's devastating, and it will definitely put some people out of business.
Washington State is known for its cherries.
What kind of cherries did you pick out?
Absolutely, Rainier's. That's what it's about.
We produce more sweet cherries than any other state in the country, and we export them all over the world.
When cherry season hits, the world goes crazy for Washington cherries. And that's because they're delicious fresh off the tree or used in yummy baked goods.
But to supply the world with cherries, Washington farmers need a lot of workers to show up for a very short harvesting window.
Usually they do, but not this year. I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
I'm Joshua McNichols, and this is Booming, a podcast about the economic forces shaping our lives here in the Pacific Northwest.
Today, how a culture of fear is pushing Washington cherry growers to the brink. That's coming up.
Can I get you anything to go with that, Sheriff?
Agent Cooper here might want to try a slice of that pie.
A cherry pie?
Best in the Tri-Counties.
So, Monica, when I was a kid in Bellingham, Washington, my friends and I spent summers picking strawberries. A school bus would pick us up early in the morning, driven by Mr. Garjule, and we'd get paid by the pound. It was like 10 cents a pound. We were not very good workers, and we got into a lot of berry fights. At some point, the farmers got wise and started hiring adults, mostly from Mexico.
Yeah, picking fruit is serious business. It's not child's play.
Now, I know you've been looking into cherries, which are much more economically important for our state. You know, something like 70% of U.S. sweet cherry exports come from the Pacific Northwest, and Washington is the top grower. So what's going on with the cherry season this year?
Well, it was supposed to be a great year for Washington cherries. That's what I heard from Eric Zavala. He works for a fruit grower co-op in Wenatchee called Bluebird.
We have a really, really good crop in Washington State, and good size, good quality. Everything is there except labor.
So the way cherry harvesting goes is migrant workers follow the season from the Southwest to California to Washington. And California's season was unusually short this year. It wasn't very productive. Meanwhile, in Washington, there's a great crop. And growers were super optimistic. They were like, we've got a ton of fruit, it's great quality, and we're going to get all of these extra workers from California who are leaving early, ready to pick. But they never showed up.
Why not?
They're scared. There have been a lot of headlines and social media posts about ICE raids and deportations, and that makes them scared to travel and scared to show up to work.
Workers are paranoid and they don't know what to do. And every morning they question whether they get on their cars and make the 5-minute drive because they don't know if they're going to get arrested or not.
Now, growers that I talked to stressed that there haven't actually been any ICE raids on farms in Washington, and they don't expect them to happen. They believe the administration is only targeting immigrants who have committed crimes, and they say ICE isn't authorized to conduct raids once their workers are on their farms. But the fear is enough to keep workers home anyway.
So what are you hearing from cherry growers?
It's an urgent crisis for them. They can't just wait until this immigration panic dies down. Cherries are super perishable. They have to be picked within a few days of ripening. And if they can't get the workers that they need to pick the cherries in time, then they can't recover any of the money that they've put into maintaining their orchards up to this point.
Now, when we have growers that typically they have, again, 100 pickers, and now they have only 15.
Eric said he expects a lot of small farms to go out of business.
If this year turns to be bad, we're probably going to lose 10, 20% of small growers just because they have invested all they can into making that orchard work.
A lot of these farmers are from districts that voted for Trump. Does this change their views of his administration?
No, not really. They feel like a handful of isolated deportations are being blown out of proportion and creating unnecessary panic. They point out that there were more deportations during the Biden and Obama administration, although that was more from folks at the border than workplace raids. But they say that they're not seeing mass immigration enforcement in their communities, and they blame all the attention that the ICE raids are getting from the protests and social media and news coverage as creating a panic among workers that isn't really reflective of reality. That's what I heard from John Folden. He works with Eric at the growers co-op that we just talked about.
We're not seeing any raids. We're not seeing anyone getting picked up from the orchards. We're not seeing anybody coming into the warehouses and cleaning out the warehouses. So it's a propaganda thing that's going on. At least that's the way I'm viewing it, because none of these things have materialized.
So John and Eric were really emphatic that this is not a problem that they're seeing on their farms right now. But there have been a few incidents in the past few weeks that make people worried about workplace raids. There was the garment facility in Los Angeles. There was a meatpacking facility in Nebraska. And there were also reports that a couple of farms north of Los Angeles also had ICE show up. Those workers in California are the ones who need to travel to Oregon and then to Washington to work on our farms. And if they're hearing about ICE starting to show up on farms, then there is reason for concern.
I can see why they wouldn't want to cross state borders at a time when there's so much confusion.
Yeah, labor's always been an issue, but all of the attention that these ICE raids and deportations are getting is making it a lot worse. The growers that I talked to said that they've never seen shortages this bad, and that favors big farms because they can absorb the losses more easily. Now, there's one bright spot, and that's small cherry farmers that sell directly to customers through more premium markets like farmers markets. I talked to one named Blanca Gonzalez who works on her dad's farm, and she said that they rely on the local community and their family to pick cherries, so they're a little bit insulated from some of the forces that we've been talking about. And they can charge a little bit more because farmers market shoppers are willing to pay it.
It's nice to have the same people every year that help us, that help my dad pick everything and, be able, it's like a family business, so we all get together and we have different markets that we go to sell, so it's nice.
But that doesn't work for everybody. Niche farms that can sell at farmers markets and large-scale growers might be able to withstand this labor crisis, but the farms in the middle are getting crushed.
So what happens to the extra cherries? Do they just rot on the branches?
Yeah. If the cherries can't be picked while they're at the right level of ripeness, then they can't be sold, and farmers aren't going to pay to have them picked if they're overripe. They'll just let the fruit drop.
Could robots do the cherry picking?
No, robots cannot do the cherry picking. Picking cherries, like I said, it requires a level of skill and decision-making that machines are not capable of, at least not now. You have to be able to tell exactly when the fruit is perfectly ripe, and you have to keep the stem intact so that you don't create little tears that can introduce bacteria. Eric said he was talking with one of his growers, and he had a picker bring a bucket of fruit that was overripe, and they were like, sorry, you got to go. This is, it's precise. So it's not something where there's an easy automation solution.
Where does this leave cherry growers?
Well, like I said, we might end up in a situation where there are really only the small kind of premium growers who can sell to more affluent markets and then big industrial farms because nobody else can afford to stay in business. And this is an issue that goes beyond just cherries or even apples and pears, which need to be harvested next. The agriculture sector was already dealing with a labor shortage. Now, with all of the fear of deportations, that's getting a lot worse really quickly. And the harvesting window is short. I mean, it depends on the crop, but it's all perishable. It all has to be picked or face rotting in the fields. So that could have really big implications for the people who grow our food.
Coming up next, the end game. All right, we're back with our producer, Lucy Suchek, who's got the end game for us.
I do. This end game is titled, What You Didn't Know About Cherries.
Ooh.
So I've got 3 questions for you. It's going to be pretty quick. But I'm curious if you know any of these fun facts about cherries.
Joshua, do you have a cherry tree?
I do not.
I do.
Oh!
Loaded question. Tell us about your cherry tree.
Oh, I love her. Planted like 5 years ago. It's just like a regular. Obviously, I don't know that much about cherries because I don't know the variety. They're like just bright red, sweet cherries, and we love them.
Okay, first question. How many cherries can you get from one cherry tree on average?
I'm going to guess 2,000.
Okay.
It's by like number of cherries, not pounds?
Number of cherries. So, I don't know how accurate this is.
How old is the tree?
Yeah,
I don't
how
know.
big is it?
I don't need any follow-up questions.
Okay, 5,000.
7,000 cherries.
That's a lot of cherries.
Yeah.
7,000. Wow.
Yeah.
My parents had a cherry tree in their front yard for a long time, but they never got any cherries because the raccoons ate them all.
Oh, no.
They just dropped their seeds all over the ground below, and we'd be like, oh, what could have been?
Do you get cherries from your tree?
I do, because we have like a renegade garden. We just sort of took over the curb in front of our house. And so my theory is that it's really productive and pests aren't a huge problem because there's a lot of foot traffic and like dogs walking by. So anybody who stops by to try to steal our strawberries or cherries or, vegetables gets scared away.
Nice.
Very strategic.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2. How many varieties of cherries are there?
142.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I know that they're a very old fruit that is grown in many different places, and there's probably heirloom trees all over the place. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm going to guess like 75.
1,200. 1,200 different types of cherries in the wild. We only grow a fraction of them commercially in the U.S., which is probably why you're not familiar with all of them, but yeah.
Okay,
over
so
1,000.
we're talking wild cherries too. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Okay, number 3, last one. Where does the yellow color of the Rainier cherry come from?
Apricots?
What? I don't understand the question.
Okay, well...
God?
Like most cherries are red. Why is ours yellow?
Well, I just know that cherries are a stone fruit and that they're actually related to a lot of other stone fruits that aren't that distant in terms of their genetics. That's why I said something like apricots, but I'm sure you probably can't cross them.
Okay.
I think apricots is the best guess that I can come up with. Nectarines?
Well, Lucy was so shocked that it couldn't possibly be.
Sorry, I don't mean to be judgy on your answer. That's a great guess. Okay. The answer is their genes. They have a recessive gene that was passed down from when their parent varieties were combined. They come from a combination of Bing and Van cherries, and those are both red. But when they were crossed to create the Rainier, their gene results in the yellow color. I have no idea how that works, but that is the answer.
Well, it's a beautiful result. It looks like a sunset.
Yeah. And it was developed in Washington at Washington State University's Prosser Experiment Station in 1952.
Very cool.
Washington cherries.
That's it for Booming. Thanks so much for listening.
If you have a question about the economy that you want us to answer, email us at booming@kuow.org.
Also, special thanks to those of you who are donating to the show. We couldn't do it without you. If you want to donate, go to kuow.org/booming. Thanks.
Our producers are Lucy Suchek and Alec Cowan. Our editor is Carol Smith. I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
I'm Joshua McNichols.
And we'll see you next time.
Planet Money helps you understand the economy. We find the people at the center of the story.
Garbage in New York, that was like a controlled substance.
We show you how money influences everything.
Tell me what you like by telling me how you spend your money.
And we dig until we get answers.
I had a bad feeling you were going to bring that up.
Planet Money finds out. All you have to do is listen. The Planet Money Podcast from NPR.